Our story tonight, an epic legal showdown, Donald J. Trump v. Casa Inc. If you haven't heard of Casa Inc., it's an immigrants' rights group, and they're squaring off with the Donald at the Supreme Court. At issue, do federal courts have the power to issue nationwide injunctions against presidential executive orders? Or in plain English, can one federal judge pull the emergency brake on a president's order for the entire country? This case isn't just about arcane legal procedures, it's about birthright citizenship. The 14th Amendment rule that if you're born on U.S. soil, congrats, you're an American. It's literally in the Constitution's citizenship clause. All persons born or naturalized in the United States and subject to the jurisdiction thereof are citizens of the United States. Let's rewind for context, because this didn't come out of nowhere. It came out of the 14th Amendment, ratified in 1868, 157 years to 2025. President Donald Trump on day one signs Executive Order 14160. Under Trump's order, if both of a baby's parents are non-citizens without permanent status, think undocumented immigrants or certain visa holders, then boom, that baby is not a U.S. citizen, even if born here. Almost immediately, lawsuits rained down on this executive order. Immigrants' rights groups, states, you name it, all ran to court claiming Trump's order violated the 14th Amendment. Now here's where it gets spicy. Those lawsuits led to not one, not two, but 3 different federal district courts issuing nationwide injunctions to block Trump's order. Now, nationwide injunction basically means a single judge said, this order is so likely unlawful, I'm halting it everywhere, not just for the people who sued. So Team Trump sprinted to the Supreme Court, essentially asking, please, oh wise justices, let us enforce our order at least on people who weren't plaintiffs in those cases. In other words, Trump's lawyers didn't even try to convince SCOTUS that their order is acceptable. They just begged the court to limit the injunctions so they only protect the actual folks who sued. Because if you can't win on what you did, at least fight about who can stop you. It's the litigator's equivalent of, okay, maybe I robbed the bank, but can we argue about whether the security guard was allowed to tackle me? The Supreme Court, recognizing the stakes, took the unusual step of fast-tracking the case. They consolidated all 3 challenges under the name Trump v. Casa Inc. and held oral arguments on May 15, 2025, a rare late-term hearing. The core constitutional debate was presented in refreshingly simple terms. Now let's take a listen.
You're wrong about the merits, that the government is not allowed to do this under the Constitution, and yet it seems to me that your argument says we get to keep on doing it until everyone who is potentially harmed by it figures out how to file a lawsuit, hire a lawyer, etc.
And then ultimately, this court decides the merits in a nationwide binding precedent. You have a complete inversion of that through the nationwide injunctions.
The justices were clearly grappling with the implications. A ruling for Trump wouldn't magically make his order constitutional, but it would change how courts can respond to such presidential overreach. Do you let one judge be a nationwide umpire calling foul? Or do you force every affected person or state to file their own lawsuit like some dystopian whack-a-mole? This is Injunction Junction, and we're trying to figure out its function. For more on this, we turn to our special guest tonight, constitutional law professor and injunction expert Professor Kai Wong. Thank you for joining us, Professor.
Great to be here, Evan.
Professor, break this down for us. Trump is basically asking the court to ban nationwide injunctions so that no single judge can halt his executive orders across the board. Why are these nationwide injunctions such a big deal?
Well, Evan, they're a huge deal. A nationwide or universal injunction is like a judicial off switch for a federal policy. One judge in one case can stop an executive order from applying to anyone anywhere. Supporters say it's crucial for protecting rights across the board. Critics, and there are many, say it's too much power for one judge and invites judge shopping. That means if you're a lawyer, you can try to file your case in front of the most sympathetic judge in the country. And with over 1,000 federal judges out there, someone's bound to agree with you on even the craziest argument.
Right, so Trump's team basically did that, found judges who would block his policy. But to be fair, both parties play this game, don't they? I recall Texas judges turning into a liberal policy shredder when Biden was in office.
Exactly. Under Biden, we saw a Texas judge brigade issuing nationwide orders against things they didn't like. Immigration rules, vaccine mandates, even an abortion pill approval. It got so bad that Justice Neil Gorsuch, one of the court's conservatives, complained that these broad injunctions were being abused left and right.
So what happens if the Supreme Court agrees with Trump here? What are the stakes?
If the court sides with Trump and limits or ends nationwide injunctions, the immediate effect is that Trump's executive order could go into effect everywhere except for the specific plaintiffs who sued. Babies of Casa members or the states that sued might still get citizenship, but babies elsewhere, they're in limbo. It'd be chaos. The exact same federal law, while unconstitutional order in this case, would apply in some places and not others. And practically it means the president could enforce even an illegal policy on most of the population until the slow court process plays out.
What about the alternative? If the court says nationwide injunctions are fine, what does that mean long term?
Then we continue as we have in recent years. Activists rush to friendly courthouses to stop policies they hate, and single judges continue to have outside powers to slam the brakes.
So it's either speedy justice with a side of judge shopping, or slow justice with a side of chaos? What a menu. Thank you, Professor. I appreciate you breaking it down. Now, the Supreme Court hasn't decided this case yet, so here's my predicted outcome. The court will likely rule in Trump's favor 6-3, at least on the injunction issue. Expect a majority opinion that goes something like, federal judges, knock it off with the universal injunctions. Limit relief to the parties before you. They'll dress it up in legalese about Article 3 and equitable powers, maybe citing how injunctions historically weren't meant to cover everyone. I predict a fiery dissent, warning that the ruling cripples the judiciary's ability to check the executive. In short, a 6-3 split. The conservatives curtail injunctions, the liberals cry havoc, and no one on the court will defend Trump's actual birthright citizenship order. So what does this all mean for America if the court indeed drops the hammer on nationwide injunctions? First off, on the immediate issue of birthright citizenship, it will remain intact. The difference is how much damage could happen in the meantime without a nationwide block. Trump could enforce his order on most new babies while each case wends its way through the court. Some American-born kids might spend their first months or years as legal question marks, and that's a huge deal. It injects uncertainty into something that used to be absolutely certain. If you're born here, you're one of us. If the court limits injunctions, the executive branch gains more unchecked sway in the short term. It shifts power towards the presidency, at least until the Supreme Court itself steps in on a case. In the end, this case is about more than baby citizenship. It's about who gets to say no when a president goes too far. Is it any federal judge with a spine, or only the Supreme Court after a long delay? So as absurd as this case may sound, its outcome will ripple through every future clash between the Oval Office and the law. We'll see how it shakes out. In the meantime, if you've got a baby due soon, maybe sign them up as a plaintiff in utero just to be safe. Thanks for watching.
Since I wanna get,